Hi, my name is Caitlin Marr, and I'm a 7th grade language arts teacher. The image I chose for my mind map is a puzzle, and just like a puzzle, different aspects of literacy and language arts instruction have been pieced together to create a cohesive, balanced approach for best practices. The light blue boxes in the upper left-hand corner represent the very beginning of English instruction in America. Reading instruction did start out as developing an appreciation for literature, which at the time was most likely easy to do because books were probably considered entertainment in the early 1900s. During this time period, silent reading was thought to be better, and this idea was celebrated. And to build upon this idea from Charles Hubbard Judd, Thorndike decided that reading is thinking, which is still valued in the language arts and literacy practice today. I started out my career teaching 3rd grade, and every year when we would kick off our Reader's Workshop launch, we would start with a lesson from Tanny McGregor from a book called Comprehension Connections. This lesson talked about the reading salad, how reading is not simply text, but it's also thinking. We must stop while we read to ensure that we're processing and comprehending all of the important information that's going on the page and also between the lines. As the years progressed into the 30s and 40s, radio became a problem for children, and people started to move away from their love of reading a little bit. And in the lecture, it's related to technology today. I know that to kick off units now, we do a lot of video immersions. One of my favorite units that I teach is a dystopian reading unit. And in order to kick off the unit, we use these video immersions. The students will watch a dystopian short video through a particular lens. And that way, once they start to read the text, they start to understand what the dystopian genre is like, and it's easier for them to apply these lenses to text after getting used to them through a video. So where our solution today is video immersions, the solution back then was basal readers. And this was a collection of stories in a large, almost like a textbook, with a teacher's guide and a workbook. And honestly, this was the approach that was still in effect when I was in school as a kid. I didn't really like reading as a kid because of basal readers. And I currently teach from the Teachers College Reading and Writing Workshop Project, the Readers and Writers Workshop model, which allows for choice reading. And when I was allowed to choose and self-select the type of material that I wanted to read, that's when my love for reading really started to flourish and to grow. So I really believe in this type of reading method and way to teach literacy. In addition to the basal readers came the Dick and Jane series, which had this look and say format, pictures along to help out the reader, and round robin reading was very popular at this time as well. This was also used when I was in school. We would take turns going around the classroom and reading, which really could be detrimental to a struggling reader to ensure that they're made to read out loud. I believe that if a student does want to read out loud, they should be able to volunteer, but not to force a student to read out loud in an environment that they might feel comfortable in. During the 50s, teachers also started to realize that it was important to read and write together. And this is something that I also really believe in, because good readers are great writers, and vice versa. Writers are readers as well. At our school, our language arts program is called IRLA, which stands for Integrated Reading and Language Arts. I teach the students reading and writing together. During the 60s began developmental reading programs like the SQ3R and the DRA. I'm actually familiar with the DRA. One district I worked in still used them as their reading testing method. It was a great way to show students vocabulary before they read, access their prior knowledge with specific reading skills, to encourage their knowledge of reading as they read and encourage the comprehension. This is actually a good method to use while instructing small groups, especially in the primary grades and with struggling readers in upper grades. I'm also familiar with the Fountas and Pinnell reading record program, which is another way to test readers. Miscues, which was an idea that Kenneth Goodman came up with, is really focused on in the Fountas and Pinnell. And through these different miscues, each one has almost like a different definition, and it helps us as teachers to understand better where students are having difficulty in their comprehension and their fluency as well. As different ideologies continue to emerge throughout the 60s, Jean Shaw decides to put the debate to rest and wrote a book really encompassing all of these different ideologies. She talked about focusing on comprehension and interpretation of the text, application of different literary skills, word recognition, and ensuring that students are learning 50 to 100 standard sight words in the beginning of their literacy education. She also talked about a slow and easy approach with analytic phonics that accompanied reading instruction. Small group instruction is also an important topic that she discusses. Small group instruction is so valuable to a reading teacher because you can really challenge your high flyer students or move your struggling readers at a pace that's just right for them. As we move into the 1970s, we start to get ideas like whole language, which is child-centered instruction, thematic instruction, active social learning. So this is where we start to involve social themes into reading instruction, empathy, making children relate to characters, centering the instruction around the child rather than getting up in front of the class and telling a child something. In the 1970s, Paulo Freire discusses transformative pedagogy, which talks about how schools should play a role in reducing social inequality. These ideas come in the wake of the civil rights movement, when we start to realize that certain groups of people in our country are being marginalized, people of different races, people of different social classes, women. Reading about different people's lives is a way to become a more empathetic human being and to understand the struggles that other people must go through, especially if some people have not been through many struggles themselves. Then come the reading wars, where it's the battle of whole language, this approach of balanced literacy versus phonics, the more traditional method. And it's found that this balanced approach really does work if we take a mix of traditional reading and literacy instruction, things that did work from traditional instruction, and we incorporate this new transformative pedagogy as well. In the late 90s and the early 2000s come a lot of educational reforms. The 1999 Reading Excellence Program, the 2000 National Reading Panel. Making a difference means making it different, understanding that children are all not at the same level and that we need to differentiate instruction in order to meet the needs of different students in our classrooms. 2002 came the No Child Left Behind Act from George W. Bush, and in 2011 we have the New Jersey State Common Core Standards. The Common Core Standards help us plan our instruction, plan our objectives for learning every day, and give teachers focused lenses that they can teach lessons through. The final piece of my mind map was choosing a language arts association that I wanted to get to know a little bit more about. And I've heard of the NCTE before, which was an organization that I've been interested in gaining a little bit more insight on. Upon looking at their website, I found some information that they were started in 1911, so they've been working for the benefit of literacy and language arts instructions for well over 100 years now. It's a collaborative learning community from not only within our country, but from 20 other countries as well. James Fleming Hossick sent letters to teachers around the country at the organization's inception and decided to create a representative body to improve conditions surrounding the work of English and language arts literacy instruction. Today there's actually over 50,000 members in every state. It's a very successful community. If you look at the website, there's many resources online. There's lesson plans, there's journals, there's books, and various resources that we can get information on to improve our literacy instruction. So that is a little bit of insight into my design of my mind map. I thought it was very interesting to see how many things that started back in the early 1900s are still alive and well in reading instruction today. And I think as a teacher and continuing to teach throughout the years, you realize in your own classroom what works best with students and what doesn't work. Changes are always going to come and go, and I think it's best that as a teacher we keep an open mind, we continue to adapt, but we do embrace the traditional approaches that do work for students.